productivity faced by the Indian industry with a view to promote the vision of vocal for local and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Presently, the size of the global pharmaceuticals market is approximately US dollars 1.3 trillion and that of Indian market is US dollar 55 billion. Globally, India is the largest supplier for generic drugs. Indian pharmaceutical industry supplies over 50% of global demand for various vaccines, 40% of generic demand in the US, and 25% of all medicine in the UK. Indian medical devices market is presently valued at over US dollar 12 billion and is expected to grow to US dollar 50 billion by 2025. India is counted among the top 20 global medical devices market and is the fourth largest medical devices market in Asia after Japan, China, and South Korea. With so much potential to grow, there exist several key challenges like excessive dependence on China for sourcing active pharmaceutical ingredients, excessive regulation and slow trial approval, low R&D expenditure by Indian companies, over-regulated sector with only few notified devices, etc. Now, before we begin, let me roll out a few points to keep the house in order. All participants are requested to turn off their video and stay muted till the end of the discussion to avoid any disturbances while the panelists are speaking. If you have any questions, you may write that in the chat box. The speakers are requested to switch on their camera when they speak. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Mandeep K. Bhandari with us. Dr. Mandeep is an Indian Administrative Service Officer of Jammu and Kashmir cadre of 2001 batch and presently Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. He has served in the capacities as Deputy Commissioner in the districts of Jammu and Leh, Chief Executive Officer, Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, and more. He is currently looking after food and drugs regulatory systems in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. I request you, sir, to set the tone and context for the deliberation today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, and a very good afternoon to all the distinguished panelists and all the participants who have joined from across the country and abroad. And I must say that with Professor Bijon Mishra being the moderator, a very right person to be in this position for a very, very important session. I must thank DPIIT for taking such a wonderful and great initiative of Udyog Manthan. Conceptually, it is something which will go a long way in addressing the issues between the industry, the regulator, the government, and more so in understanding how and what is going to be the way forward. As a part of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, since we come under the system of regulator, which is a Central Drug Standards Control Organization, and also in terms of our federal units in the states and union territories, we have the drug control organizations. This is a very important component in order to understand what are the key challenges in this sector and how does government propose to go ahead in tandem, in close association with the industry feedback to proceed further. As has also just been mentioned in the introductory remarks, that Indian pharmaceutical industry is a very vibrant one. It contributes majorly to the Indian economy, and currently it is growing at 7 to 8%. It is the third largest in the world by volume and 10th in terms of value. The Indian pharma industry has contributed significantly to the global healthcare by ensuring high quality, affordable, and accessible medicines across the world. India is the pharmacy of the world for quality, generic, affordable medical products. Similarly, medical device industry is also a booming sector in the country, and already as informed, it is one of the 28 largest medical device production economies in the world. And we look forward to this becoming an even bigger contributor to the global scenario in days to come. The country is bestowed with a large pool of scientists and engineers who have the potential to steer the industry ahead in an even higher level. And they have contributed to the reduction of prices of many medicines globally, as has been visible with large number of examples through which the Indian industry has helped globally in this way. Indian manufacturers are the key contributors to the WHO pre-qualification program for the medicines and vaccines. And presently, 70% of the WHO's vaccine requirements are sourced from India. The major challenge which Indian industry had and the way it came up to meet the challenge of COVID is something which is worth mentioning. As we all know, at the beginning of last year, when we were just getting the first signs of COVID patients in the country and the requirements were worked out, which were massive throughout the country, it is the Indian industry which came up with all the solutions. I personally, in the ministry, was looking after the supplies across the country for the medical devices. And based on my personal experience, I can say for sure that it was in that minimal time that the industry, it took upon itself the challenge to ensure that the pharma products, the essential medical devices, and now the vaccines, they all become available not only within the country to our healthcare workers, to our frontline workers, to the entire population, but also over a period of few months, they become major exporters to the world. This is something which is a big success story and something which we need to take forward and learn from in days to come. Now, quality standards, since today we are talking on two verticals, that is quality and productivity. So quality is something which comes innately to a medical product. This is essential because a medical product would ultimately govern the quality of healthcare which a patient gets, the quality of medicines or the medical devices which he is required to use. So quality standards, they have been prescribed under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, which is what we are governing for the regulation of this important sector. And it is the responsibility of the manufacturer to ensure the quality of the pharmaceutical and medical devices. However, the regulator, which is the central regulator in the form of CDSCO and the state drug regulators, they monitor the quality of these products through the mechanism of inspections and evaluating the quality by testing the samples in various laboratories. So these are the two areas which we will dwell upon as I just move in my talk. The quality of pharmaceuticals and medical devices, for that standards are laid down, and our Bureau of Indian Standards is looking after setting up of standards for the medical devices, and Indian Pharmacopoeia is governing the standards for the pharma drugs. Now, both these areas, they are regularly and on a continual basis being upgraded, being improved upon. And our regulations, that is the medical devices rules and the drugs rules, they include in themselves the provisions so that the quality of the medical products is actually governed. Central Drug Standards Control Organization, we have been looking it up right from the beginning. And this organization, which is centrally controlling and looking after various important aspects, it has to undergo changes and be in line with the latest requirements. E-governance is something which has become the key for its better management, for its efficient production, for its efficient discharge of responsibilities. For that, a very important portal in the form of Sugam was launched a couple of years back, And I'm happy to note that in days to come, we are working on its next version, which will make it much more friendlier, which will make the system much more transparent and much more efficient for the industry. In order to ensure that our medical devices, they find themselves actually governed from the quality perspective, the area which was slightly in a void prior to 2018, the government came up with the medical devices rules 2017, which became applicable from the 1st of Jan 2018. And I must say that these rules are globally harmonized. They are in line with what is prevalent across the globe. And that is why we are able to now today ensure that our medical devices, they meet the quality requirements of any stringent regulatory authority also. In order to ensure that, as in the opening talk, it was mentioned that very few medical devices are at present governed or regulated. I must reiterate, because the entire industry knows, especially the medical device industry, that we have, by way of regulation, brought all the medical devices through a globally acclaimed definition under the medical devices rules, and they will be regulated in a phased manner hereinafter. A period of their regulation in the phased manner has been greatly discussed and deliberated with the industry, and based on that, the roadmap over the next 3 or 4 years has been brought out. And I'm sure that this would provide a sufficient hand-holding for our entire medical device industry to go global, to go in terms of all the acclaimed quality requirements, and to be a very important pillar for the Indian economy. For ensuring the quality of drugs, as we all know that a number of initiatives, they have been taken over a period of time, including bioavailability and bioequivalence requirements, including the submission of stability, safety, data of excipients, and such other measures. There is a very important component of ensuring that post-market surveillance is there. This will ensure that the pharmacovigilance and materiovigilance verticals are in place, which ensure that the quality of any approved drug or medical device in the market, it is duly accounted for, all the adverse events are duly reported, and any improvements over a period of time, if they are required, they are put in place. Capacity building and strengthening of our drug regulatory system was something which the government thought is sine qua non to ensuring the quality of regulations. For that, regular trainings, increase of the strength of manpower, their capacity buildings, setting up of laboratories, ensuring that they are accredited, and also by infusing a lot of funding into the state drug regulatory system that ensured that over a period of time, all the states also establish the labs which are quality certified. As on date, more than 550 crores has been given in by way of central funding to various states to ensure this. We are also setting up a comprehensive database of the entire industry and the products which are getting manufactured. This is which was missing by way of information. And now through a regulation, this has been put in place, and I'm happy to note that industry has responded very positively, and they are putting in that entire information so that over a click of button, we as a country are aware that which product, which molecule is getting manufactured at how many places, how many locations, and the quantities thereof. We are aware that India is the national regulatory authority and has got the functional NRA status by the WHO in 2017, which means that all the vaccines which go out to the world through the WHO system, it is duly acclaimed and approved by the CDSCO, and it is taken as such. Now, in the recent times during COVID, we had certain challenges, and from the regulatory perspective, government was very keen to come up with whatever hand holding was required. And one of the very important initiatives was to allow stockpiling of the vaccines pending its marketing authorization. And I must say for sure that this was one important step which ensured that today, when we are saying that we have in first almost 3 weeks, we have immunized more than 60 lakh healthcare workers slash frontline workers, it is on account of the fact that this regulation came into being and our manufacturers, they were in a position to ensure that they manufacture and keep the stockpile material with them. The new drugs and clinical trial rules, which came about in 2019, I'm really happy when I look back that we had that foresight, both as industry and as government, to have those in place, because these were the trying times when actually that challenge of getting innovation in place, getting new vaccines in place, it came about. And only on account of the regulation being in place, the entire ecosystem of developing vaccines has come up in such a big way in the country. And now we are in a position to even service the global requirements from that perspective. From the medical devices and pharmaceuticals productivity vertical, I would say the Department of Pharma has taken a large number of initiatives to ensure that this comes in place, and both in terms of the output volumes and the volume of inputs, the productivity which defines this ratio, that has been actually put in place. Department of Pharma is promoting the pharmaceutical and medical device industry, and it has launched a large number of schemes for enhancing this productivity. It has announced the PLI, that is Production Linked Incentive Scheme, for APIs, for the drug intermediates, and for the KSMs, that is key starting materials, and also for the medical devices. New schemes are in the pipeline, and they are already setting up the bulk drug parks and also the medical devices part. To conclude, I'll try to bring home a couple of points. That government is extremely keen, extremely proactive and serious in working in this area for ensuring that the industry is able to come up big way to source not only the domestic but global requirements of the medical products, which includes both drugs and medical devices. It is also working very proactively, as all our industry friends know, in reducing the compliance burden. DPIIT has taken a strong initiative in this regard, and all the ministries, including the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they have been roped in to ensure that they work very positively towards the reduction in a time-bound manner of the compliance burden. It is keen to bring about reforms and to work towards ensuring that our rules and regulations are globally harmonized so that there is no gap when we look at our products being sold in the international market. It is also working towards being a part of those stringent regulatory authorities like ICH, and also working closely with the industry on day-to-day basis for the regulatory and productivity related issues. I'm sure in days to come, we will be a very, very strong economy to contend with in the field of medical devices and pharmaceuticals. With these words, I thank all of you, and I also hope that this session and many more to follow will really bring about and bring out all those issues which still pend and which need to be ironed out in days to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your opening remarks. Today, we also have with us Mr. Navdeep Rinwa, Joint Secretary Policy, Department of Pharmaceuticals. He joined the Indian Administrative Service in the year 1999 and belongs to the Uttar Pradesh cadre of IAS. In the Department of Pharmaceuticals, he is looking after pharmaceuticals policy and medical devices. Prior to joining the Department of Pharmaceuticals, he worked as Private Secretary to Minister of Culture and Tourism, Government of India, Private Secretary to Minister of Ayush, Government of India, and Joint Secretary, Department of Health and Family Welfare. Sir, over to you to set the context for today's discussion.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? I'm not able to see my video, but is my voice audible?
Yes, sir, you are perfectly audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate DPIIT and Quality Council of India for organizing these marathon of focus webinars for promoting quality and productivity in Indian industry, of which this seminar is one of the seminars in this marathon. And JS Ministry of Health, Mandeep ji very well explained various initiatives that Government of India is taking to improve quality and productivity in pharmaceutical and medical devices sector across various departments. I would like to just briefly mention here first 4 new schemes which we have come out with in last 1 year in 2020-21 only, rather the current year. As you may be knowing, we came out with 2 production-linked incentive schemes, one for the APIs, KSMs and drug intermediates, and another PLI scheme for the medical devices. So the first scheme has an allocation of 6,940 crore for next 6 years, and the PLI for medical devices has an allocation of 3,420 crores for next 6 years. And this is very important to note that this has come out from Department of Pharmaceuticals, which till last year had its annual budget of just 220 crores or so. So these are very big schemes which we have come out with. And the PLI for medical APIs targets 41 key starting materials or drug intermediates or APIs in combined, on which we were too much dependent on imports. And the idea is to get these products manufactured in India so that there are no supply shocks in future, as in the beginning of the pandemic, when due to lockdown in Wuhan, we had to restrict exports of 13 APIs and formulations made from these APIs. That restriction lasted for less than a month. But even that was, we realized that this should not have happened. And that's why we have come out with this scheme, so that in future, even if there are global issues with supply chain, Indian pharma industry should be able to supply medicines not only to our own citizens, but across the world. And I'm happy to inform here that we received a very encouraging response to that scheme. We received 215 applications from more than 80 companies. And the first segment that was the most important, that is those KSMs which are made through fermentation route. We had reserved 3,600 crores of incentives for that scheme. And we have selected 4 companies in that segment. And for the remaining 3 segments, the companies would be selected by end of this month. And similarly, for medical devices, we have already selected 9 companies. And for the remaining 28 applications, 12 applications are to be examined, and the approvals will be issued by end of this month, that is February 2021. And I'm also happy to inform you that for the PARC schemes, the bulk drug PARC schemes, we are going to support 3 bulk drug parks across the country. We received applications from 13 states. There was very enthusiastic response from all the states. And the design of this scheme was such that the states came up with very good incentives, be it for rates of electricity for units coming up in those parks, or the rate of water or steam, or other kind of incentives on the land allotment or the stamp rate and registration rate. Everything is very encouraging, and within the 1 or 2 months we are going to finalize the states which are going to get these parks, and then the industry can go and set up their plants in those parks. And the idea is to have common facilities which are required for all the units, so that even MSMEs don't have to invest for those common facilities, and the facilities can be availed of at very subsidized and very competitive rates, so that the manufacturing cost is reduced to a considerable extent, and the API manufactured in units situated in these plants are very competitive globally. Similarly, for medical device parks, for 4 parks, we received 16 applications, that is from 16 states, and with the various kinds of incentives, be it on GST or electricity rate or registration charges, very lucrative and very good incentives the states have come out with. So that also we plan to finalize within 1 or 2 months, that is this financial year only, and the units can go and set up the companies can set up their units in these 4 parks, whichever states will get these parks. And I'm also happy to inform that our 6th edition is going to take place on 25th and 26th February, end of this month, and 1st and 2nd March. That is Indian Medical Device 2021 and Indian Pharma 2021, the annual flagship event of the department. And this is the first time that we are going to have the Global Investors Summit in that event on 26th of February, which we are having for the first time. And we also plan to organize a regulator roundtable where regulators, or all regulators with respect to pharma and medical devices would come to a single table and would get to know the kind of compliance burden and issues that companies have in pharmaceutical and medical devices. And I would also like to share the kind of work that department is doing to reduce the compliance burden in regulations. Recently, Ministry of Environment and Forest has come out with a notification where they say that for receiving the prior environment clearance, the companies will get it for APIs and intermediate as a single category. Earlier, the approval was given for a particular API or a particular KSM. So if you had to change your product mix or raw material mix, you had to again go back to the State Pollution Control Board and things like that, and which used to take a lot of time. So after a lot of years and Department of Pharma's pursuance, this notification has come, which the industry has welcomed, and it would be really helpful for them in future in changing the product mix or raw material mix. Similarly, we had a roundtable with the AERB, Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, and CDSU on medical devices, especially the radiation-related medical devices. And there was a demand from the industry that AERB requires prior approval from the Bureau of Indian Standards before it gives its radiation certificate. So now they are in principle agreed, the AERB, that they won't require it as a prior condition, and both these approvals can be had in parallel. So I just gave you 2 examples of the kind of work that DOP is doing in association with industry, with various kind of regulators, departments, etc. And to promote domestic manufacturing and investment in the country in these 2 sectors, we have come out with we have made a Pharma Bureau, an organization of experts within the department. And the idea is to handhold the industry, investors, and to take up even their individual issues where approvals are not being given or some decision is not being taken by some department or some state government. And we are pursuing those issues. So I would like to give just one example. A company was not getting the NOC from the State Groundwater Authority of Punjab in SS Nagar, and we pursued it, and they have recently got the approval. So even such type of issues, we are taking it up at the Pharma Bureau level. So DOP would like to become the one single window for issues which could be taken up with various government departments or state governments. Now, There a committee has been formed in Ministry of Health to ensure that the regulations become more transparent, decisions are taken time bound. So DOP was also a part of that committee, and that would also result in improvement in the regulatory landscape in times to come. And we this webinar is a timely one to promote quality. We are coming with a new scheme, the PTUS, Pharmaceutical Technology Upgradation Assistance Scheme, where small units, MSMEs, would be given interest subvention on loans that they would take to become WHO GMP compliant. And we are very ambitious on this, and we would like to support more than 500 units under this scheme, where we think we are proposing that for loans up to 10 crores, an interest subvention up to 5% could be given under this scheme. Though this scheme is under the formation state, we are ready to receive the approvals from the competent authority, but we are very sure that within next 2 months we would get approvals on this scheme also. And in pharma sector, we are coming with a new scheme, as some of you must be knowing, a 15,000 crore worth of production linked incentive scheme, where patented drugs, orphan drugs, even APIs, KSMs, in vitro diagnostics, these would all be covered, which were not there in the earlier two schemes. And we hope to come out with this scheme within next 2 months, the guidelines, and then the companies would be asked to make their applications. And we hope that with these schemes, we would be, the country would be moving on a path to become not only self-reliant, but also a global leader in pharmaceuticals as well as medical devices. And I hope the deliberations in today's conference would definitely help us in achieve that. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your comments and for setting the context. Now I request Professor Bijon Mishra to take over from here as session moderator. Professor Bijon Mishra is the founder of Patient Safety and Access Initiative of India and is at present board member of NABH and NABIT and former member of governing boards of QCI. He has more than 35 years of experience in consumer education and 20 plus years as an international expert in developing consumer focus within quality management systems in public and private organizations. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Thanks a lot, Shreya, for your kind words and the introduction. Firstly, I wish to congratulate the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Department of Promotion for Industry and Internal Trade for organizing such manthans, which is going on for now almost a month. And the manthans are primarily meant to bring in stakeholders to share free and frank opinion, where we can differentiate between efficiency and inefficiency. The manthan is meant to showcase our strengths and how we can use the strengths to overcome our weaknesses. Well, globally, India has always been seen demonstrating at the right time in the right manner whenever the world has reckoned to call upon India to perform. And we have shown it in such a great manner during the pandemic that I first want to salute the whole team working within Government of India for reassuring the citizens in taking us forward in a safe and sound manner. done by Shri Rajesh Bhushan, who is now the Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, and Madam Aparna, who is now heading the Department of Pharmaceutical within Government of India. They have been well represented by none other but Dr. Mandeep Bhandari and Navneet Rinwa, both Joint Secretaries to the Government of India. Mandeep looks after health and family welfare, as he mentioned, two very important portfolios, drug and food safety, while Navdeep looks into issues concerning how the industry can gain out of improving accessibility and making healthcare affordable. Well, both of them have actually set the tone, and I'm sure all of you will agree that they have shared with all of you who are today listening in or participating as panel members in terms of the whole ambitious program of Government of India, which also got reflected on the 1st of February when the Union Budget was presented. The focus in 2021 is healthcare within the government. And I'm so happy, it was like music in my ears in terms of all the schemes which both the Joint Secretaries spoke about, especially Navdeep. He spoke about various schemes which are coming up. And as you know, we are all taxpayers. And I feel very delighted that I got invited to moderate this, because I always try to speak on behalf of the citizens in all policy interventions within the country, whether it's India or globally, whether it is WHO, whether it is FAO, WHO or Codex. I always try to bring in the citizens' perspective. And today we are going to speak about, in this Manthan, that how India can become Atmanirbhar and be vocal for local. And when we speak about this, there could not have been a better organization other than QCI to lead it, straight up in terms of quality and productivity. So I'm very happy that QCI has taken this challenge in doing the Manthan, in bringing up great ideas, and I'm sure with such eminent speakers in the panel, all the listeners and participants will gain a lot. I would also be wanting, if I don't recognize the role of CDSCO, led by Dr. Somani and his team, in making things happen at a short while in terms of patient safety, in terms of quality, in terms of not only on vaccines, but ensuring that promptly working on certain policies which enabled citizens to access healthcare while there was severe lockdown all over the country. So I would like to also recognize the work done by the various ministries, and now go to my panel members without wasting any time, because my panel members are all very eminent speakers and they will bring in a lot of dimensions apart from what the government has set the tone by the two joint secretaries who have very rightly talked about what is the intent of the government and how they plan to go ahead. Having said this, I will call upon Dr. Ranjit Barshakia-Shrikar, who is an international United Nations advisor, CEO of QBD International. He has a huge experience of 50 years in the pharma industry, advising internationally in the United Nations MPP, and also giving leadership to the government on quality standards, regulatory harmonization, global initiatives, and updating us constantly on what is happening around the world. I would now call upon Dr. Ranjit Barshekar to kindly take the mic and give his presentation. Dr. Ranjit, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Bijan sir. My sincere thanks to the Government of India for inviting me to a wonderful concept of Udyog Manthan, month being organized by various government departments. And it was a great pleasure today to listen to the government representatives today, Dr. Navdeep and Dr. Bandari, speaking on the government tremendous initiatives, support coming in from the perspective of the proposals and the funding from the government of India. And we all are fully aware that the Prime Minister of India has already mentioned that India is a pharmacy of the world. Of course we are, and this comment from the Prime Minister comes based on the experience of our industry on the quality front. And we are really doing excellent for last almost a decade now, after having some setback earlier days, having various warning letters to the industry. And we have come out of that shadow and doing really good job from the compliance perspective. So I really appreciate the encouraging comments coming in from both the government secretaries and giving the information on the incentives. And the latest one is 15,000 crores incentive which is coming from the government on the drugs and medical devices. So this, even though we have been performing well on this, there is always a scope of improvement. And we don't want to limit to what we are doing. We are very much aware, friends, that our industry, we have almost around 700 manufacturing sites approved by WHO and almost around 1,300 approved by MHRA as well. And US FDA has approved 700 plus manufacturing sites. So this itself speaks a lot of our compliance, the efforts being made by the industry. As I said, that we definitely need improvement, and also at the same time support government from the cost reduction perspective as well, and from the productivity as well. So with that little comments in the beginning, I would like to share my few thoughts on the same. Are you able to see the slide, please?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, great.
Please go ahead, Ranjit.
Thank you. So I'll be speaking here on the key drivers which are there for, or my thought process on key drivers for quality and productivity improvement in pharmaceutical manufacturing. From that perspective, as on one side, government is giving tremendous support in last so many years with lot of positive messages coming in, encouraging messages coming in. Now it's our role to ensure that we are now coming up with the government's intentions of achieving our role to improve our own quality standards. We are complying with Indian pharmacopoeia, of course we are, and also international pharmacopoeia like USP, BP, EP, etc. My suggestion to the industry is that we should aim for one standard for a product, one quality for our whole world supplies. That will help us tremendously, and that will help to further improvise our scenarios and the impression all over the world of India, why it is a pharmacy of the world. There are several opportunities from that perspective to improve the quality and productivity. There are few suggestions on a large scale. Is most important today, though we are now coming out of that shadow, but still some of the organizations are facing this problem to come out, is protecting own data integrity and compliance. That's one of the major things. And several organizations has come out of it, but still several have to ensure sustaining that compliance perspective. Another area which we will talk definitely as the time goes ahead and we are moving with the time is digitalization and electronic batch manufacturing records. Several organizations have started implementation of EBMR and digitalization perspective, even on packaging lines in quality control laboratories to improve the efficiency and the flexibility in the operations. Also, the use of latest technology and automations will definitely support us to improvise our efficiency in the operation, increase the productivity, which I'll discuss in the next slide. Also, most important, along with that, with these technologies and automations, to have a culture of quality in the organization, right from top to the bottom level, to ensure that we are going to comply with robust processes. To achieve right first time, quality culture is going to play a major role for us. So in this perspective, the paradigm shift in manufacturing and quality, if you see traditional manufacturing, where we have always disconnected process steps, but now we are in the process of complying or implementing quality by design strongly. Most of the companies who are supplying to highly regulated markets are now into the implementation of quality by design, but not all the organizations. So we have to initiate this activity throughout the industry. And from that perspective, when we talk of quality by design, which helps us compliance and implementation in continuous manufacturing processes, in API manufacturing as well as in the tablet manufacturing. So what here we are saving tremendous storage area, we are saving tremendous the input material from the perspective of, because we are adding here the intermediates and we are manufacturing the API itself in these ultra reactors for continuous manufacturing, and immediately that gets converted to the tablet. So high volume products can definitely save tremendous time and productivity and efficiency from quality perspective.
Dr. Ranjit, you have to sum up now.
Yes. So
please sum up.
Pharma 4 to technology 4 and various technologies are to be implemented by us. There are tremendous benefits from reductions in deviation up to 80%, productivity improvement by 50 to 60%, OE improvement by 40%, and changeover reduction of the equipment by 30%. So my few suggestions in last two slides to the government as well as to DCGI, if we can have a dedicated pharmaceutical ministry, which is only focused for pharmaceutical API and formulations and medical devices manufacturing, and under that generate a Office of Pharmaceutical Quality, OPQ, where DCGI will start looking into that activity, and the same technologies activities will be initiated by Office of Pharmaceutical Quality to improvise upon the efficiency and the quality of product to make uniform quality, global quality. And most important for that, we need a code of conduct in the organization to improvise. So with this few thought process, I'm sure the industry will pick up these areas. Some of them are already doing. And also the government of India would look into these aspects. DCGI would look into these aspects of having various guidelines on these various points which I have discussed. So thank you very much. Bijan sir, please take over. Bijan sir, please take over.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, please take over.
Thank you very much. Well, I would now call upon the next speaker, Dr. Carlo, who is Director in the Health Innovation Performance Consulting Private Limited, Australia. He runs his own boutique consultancy, Health Innovation Performance Consulting, and is recognized as Australian Financial Review Young Executive of the Year. I would request him to touch on how innovation in pharma and medical devices can increase productivity at the marketplace. Dr. Carlo, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor, and hello to all of you. I present from Australia. It is a real pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you. As is said, India is in many ways the pharmacy for the world, and the world thanks you. I want to talk about from a global perspective. I'm an expert in healthcare innovation. I'm a physician myself. I work with significantly large governments and private organizations in healthcare innovation. And I'd just like to spend a short amount of time sharing some insights that we've seen during COVID as relevant for the pharmaceutical and medical device industries. The first part that I want to share is when we look back at history, times of distress and crisis have been when innovation and productivity has increased the most. We see in World War II, X-rays became significantly developed, albeit the technology was developed about 20 years prior. In World War I, that was. In World War II, we have antibiotics and the proliferation of that. In COVID, in the last year, we have seen the development of a vaccine in the fastest time in humanity. Usually vaccine timelines take about 10 years to develop, and we've developed it in about 1 year. So we asked the question for the pharmaceutical industry, which spends many billions of dollars on each drug, and of which there are many, many candidates for drugs that do not proceed to then go on and be viable, and significant amount of money is wasted. How can an organization and an industry organize itself to achieve such productivity, which is far outside the spectrum of normal performance? And there's some deep insights which I think are relevant for the pharmaceutical industry globally and also to take to India. The first part is the shortcut of time in vaccination development is possible. And it is largely possible because there was pre-purchase commitments to the manufacturers from governments and states, which lowered the commercial risk for the developers. It lowered the commercial risk, and they were then able to adopt large-scale manufacturing components for these vaccines before clinical trials were completed. So there's an interesting part there that when the incentives are organized in a way that is pro-pharmaceutical development, then we can significantly accelerate the pathway of development of product. In saying that, there have been regulatory elements that have also been accelerated whilst the safety components have been emphasized. So we must ask ourselves, how can we ensure that safety is preserved, but yet increase the productivity and the timelines that we associate with the development of product? Furthermore, there was collaboration, and there was existing collaborations and existing work that was completed on coronavirus vaccines in the previous decade, which was built upon. And these existing collaborations and new collaborations in the industry enabled the faster development of the vaccine. So when we look at those principles of pre-committed funding and purchase agreements to lower the commercial risk of companies, increase in collaboration, both existing and new, as well as tapping into manufacturing lines before clinical trials were completed, we can see that there's certain principles there that could be adopted in a post-pandemic world. Moving on to medical devices, and we look at medical device innovation in COVID, we see some very interesting trends. The first one is remote medical tech and remote medical devices. With people moving into lockdown, with people that are sick being monitored in remote places where clinical staff are seeking to be removed from infection control for infection control reasons, we see that there has been a significant acceleration in medical devices that are related to remote monitoring. This is not only the traditional medical devices that have occurred, but it's also in other medical devices that are monitoring heart rates, respiratory rates, and we're seeing an increased integration between devices like our cell phones and the like that are adopting more medical device capabilities. I think it's very, very interesting when we look at this from an Indian perspective, from a medical device manufacturer regulatory perspective. There's a few principles and insights. The first is what current devices are approved that we could actually expand their usage outside and adjacent to their approved use for additional remote monitoring use. And we have seen this with certain devices where the regulators have been accelerated in the path of areas where the device is actually performing in an adjacent area that wasn't previously approved. The other part that is important with this is software as a medical device. And we see in a variety of different areas in America, with the FDA, in Australia with the Therapeutic Goods Administration as the regulator, software is being recognized as a medical device. With the proliferation of data that is around, we're seeing that the significant adoption of data analytics, as well as predictive analytics, as well as artificial intelligence, means that software can be used as a medical device in ways that we never have previously been able to do that. And there is significant opportunity for India and any other country in their medical tech industry and medical device industry to really focus on digitization, as our previous speaker mentioned, as a way to harness that data and actually develop these areas. Finally, I want to share the medical device industry as well as the pharmaceutical industry. One other area that we've seen is that clinical trials going remotely as a way to try and increase productivity. We have artificial intelligence and digital systems that are better able to match patients to the clinical interventions, so we can actually identify candidate patients for clinical trials with the greatest productivity and effectiveness that we've ever been able to. And we're able to run those trials in locations that are separated from the central site, have the appropriate governance, have the appropriate administration, and ensure that that's done okay. And we've seen an acceleration of that in COVID, where we have seen decreases in the ability of people to be able to move and travel. So summarizing up, if we look at the lessons of COVID, which we see in times of crisis spurn innovation and increase productivity, and we take those lessons from the pharmaceutical and med tech, med device industries, they are the principles by which we can examine, and for you in India to look at, and how we can promote and stimulate productivity in these areas post-pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Carlo. It was very interesting to know how technology can play a role in the coming years. Now I'll call upon Dr. Daniel Ukusukja Huta Balim, who is from Malaysia, an organization effectiveness specialist. He is also very well known to be a renowned assessor and has contributed immensely in promoting quality. And I would now request Dr. Dalia to kindly share with us the knowledge management development in the pharma company. Dr. Dalia, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Professor, for the opportunity to speak in this Udyog Manthan forum. Let me present regarding the knowledge management development in pharmaceutical company in Indonesia. So, based on our performance excellence assessments from 2012 and 2019, there is a significant increase of the maturity. However, when I look back to the data, we use or we adopt from the Malcolm Baldrig's criteria for performance excellence from the USA. There are 7 categories, and I'm very curious in the 4th category, which is the measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. And I found that in the pharma company, or in the industry of the manufacturing, especially in the pharma, there is a significant gap in knowledge management from the highest levels of the maturity in the state-owned enterprises in Indonesia. So when I look back last year in the midst of 2020, from July to September, I did some research regarding this, and I got insights from one pharma company, namely PT Papros Tbk. It is a pharmaceutical company which is a subsidiary of PT Kimia Pharma Tbk, which currently controls shares of 56.7%, and the rest held by the public. So it's state-owned enterprises in Indonesia. They face the challenge in this pandemics, like a low level of hospital filling in Indonesia dentist associations. In Indonesian Dentist Association issued a circular not to open a practice during this pandemic, and the absence of travel and terminations of public transportation modes during the lockdown restricted in Indonesia. So this is the challenge that they face in 2020, and how knowledge management in the pandemic situations can improve. When I look to their knowledge management systems, there is not systematic methods that they use in the knowledge management. So based on that situations, I did some research regarding how we can help to improve the pharmaceutical knowledge management in the situations of COVID, or the pandemic. So we did the research regarding the knowledge management organizations by using the framework from Telius. So we got the insights there that the maturity of the expert locator and also the community of practice and peer assist is very low, and it is need to improve. So based on the dimensions regarding the knowledge management framework, I see that there is an opportunity in building a culture of organizational knowledge while in the pandemic situations. Like what I see is how we can transform the tacit to explicit and give the appreciations to the employees regarding in the situations of COVID, and then how to develop knowledge workers through the senior management leaderships by optimizing, enhancing the digital collaborations platform in the organizations, and how to develop and produce knowledge-based products by using improve the knowledge taxonomy and identify or manage the subject matter expert and do the collaborative learning process in the organizations, and how to maximize the value of intellectual capital by improving their talent mobility in the company and also across in the holding environment. And for the creating and maintaining a knowledge sharing environment, we can see that the maximizing the subject matter expert is something very relevant and also very important in the collaborative strategy. And how to create and maintaining a culture of continuous learning, it's very important also. How to do benchmark and see how they can improve in their organization's knowledge management. And managing stakeholder knowledge to create value and company intellectual capital is also very important in the insights from that research. And for the focus in the 2020 that we can see, maybe this is the same with all of the world, is regarding how to accelerate the digital transformations in the process of their working. So the quick win that we have already set is how we can accelerate the digital transformations by using the signature program and also the business analytics in that program, and also how to create a knowledge integrator. Based on the insights from the organizations that I can bring here in how knowledge management can be improved to produce the creating value for the organizations. First, it is very important to align knowledge management strategy with business strategy, and how we can develop expert locator system that can be used in knowledge integrator and community of practice, and develop the expert locator system that can be used in knowledge integrator and community of practice, and how we can accelerate talent to the technical master by preparing with the international certification and standard facilities, and how to optimize the digital transformations by using big data analysis, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and how we can do the assessment maturity regularly so we can improve with the gaps that we got from that assessment. Thank you very much. This is my presentations from Indonesia, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Mr. Dalia. I am sure the collaborative desire will materialize between India and Indonesia, and you would be able to take India globally. I come next to Sri Yatin Shah, who is the Director, Regulatory Affairs and Business Quality with Johnson & Johnson Medical India. He has 35 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and medical devices industry, and I'm sure he will touch in his presentation how Made in India brand can become global, and what are those areas where we should focus in terms of medical devices, as our very two dynamic joint secretaries shared with us on the various schemes which they made us walk through. So what are those areas where Dr. Yatim will want us to have a quick policy intervention? Dr. Yatin Shah, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Professor Mishra. And it was indeed a great time to hear Dr. Bhandari and Honorable Dr. Rinva onto the various incentive schemes which they are bringing up to promote and facilitate the pharma and the medical device industry. It's great. It is absolutely great to know about them. It is indeed an honor and pleasure to speak from this dais and to this respected audience. Thank you for this opportunity, everybody. Today I plan to touch upon an important topic, Made in India as a brand and the perception of the quality of the products having this label Made in India. I know it is not a new topic. It's not a new topic, and it must have been touched upon previously many times as well. However, I would like to bring upon some of the discussions on the perception of quality of Made in India products and how we can work together with the government, we as industry people, organizations, work with the government to change this perception of India's quality. As you all will agree with me, we are creating far more better products with far more better technology today, but we still face the perception problem. The moment we say Made in India, people tend to think in a different direction, in a different manner, that perceive the products made in India in a different manner. We love this idea. We also like to believe that the technology has leveled everything. India has adopted all kinds of technology. We have the technology what other advanced countries might have the technology in the manufacturing space. But that's not really true, because geography matters. The moment we come into Asia Pacific, the moment we come into India, the perception again is a different. And that's how we as an industry and government need to initiate some kind of initiatives to change this perception within India, outside India. Made in India products do face a challenge, that the products are coming from Made in India. Sorry.
Mr. Manish Thakur, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah.
There's some disturbance on your end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Made in India products do face a problem of coming it from a third world country. And this is really unfortunate perception. There is a difference between the quality of product and the perceived quality of the product. We need to change that. So how do we do this? What do we do going forward? We need to continue our manufacturing quality products with latest technologies to serve our patients. It is in the interest of our patients that we continue to manufacture quality products in the interest of them. We also need to sell better. Besides making the world-class product, we need to change something. We need to articulate our selling also in a much better way. It's not about only the product quality, but the way we articulate about selling our products, promoting our products, either as an individual industry or with the help of government. It can make a huge difference to change the perception of India product quality. We need to collaborate with our government for this. We need to work with our government on certain policy shaping measures to ensure that we manufacture quality products. And our government also needs a hand-holding with us to put these organizations in the front line, who invest heavily into quality processes, invest into quality systems, invest into quality infrastructure. That is where our government also needs to help us. There are several organizations within the medical device sector who strive for manufacturing these products in a world-class manner and have world-class quality. And they have also invested very heavily in creating a world-class infrastructure to manufacture these world-class quality. On many occasions, we can realize that our manufacturing infrastructure in India and India product quality do surpass many of them outside India. And many of you who travel a lot across the globe have experienced this. You must have seen the infrastructure where India has much better infrastructure in many ways. Besides this, the talent which we possess is also in no second to anyone in the world. If government and we did listen about the many incentives in terms of getting the land benefits, in terms of getting some subsidized water and electricity. But here is a point which I want to make. If government can incentivize the efforts of organizations who are investing heavily into quality of the products, creating quality processes, creating quality infrastructure, this can be a game changer. The way the other incentives attracts the manufacturer to get into the manufacturing field, an incentive scheme which brings them up onto the radar, onto the globe, where they are recognized for quality precisely, for manufacturing quality products, it can be a game changer. Such policies can help the manufacturers to boost their whole manufacturing processes and make a significant differences.
You have to sum up now.
Sure. These incentives can be in terms of the way we talked about the production link incentives, the quality link incentives, prepared for or tax benefits, preferential treatments in the tender participation, fast track patents for them or for doing certain kind of innovation. So this a strong collaboration between medical device industry and the government will not only boost the Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat concept, but it also be with the world-class quality to change the perception of Made in India product quality. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I think you have brought in what Mr. Navdeep ji mentioned in terms of recognizing and incentivizing in terms of performance. So I'm sure those schemes will link with what we have proposed. I would now call upon Dr. Shailendra Singh, who is Head of Medical and Health Services of TUV South Asia Private Limited. He brings with him 15 years of experience in pharmaceutical and medical devices testing lab in India and Europe. I'm sure he would share with us the regulatory framework for medical devices industry, which is now existing in our country within the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, and what he would propose should be what we should look at on a fast track manner. Dr. Shailendra Singh, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Professor Bijan. Udyog Manthan is a very good initiative, and I thank Government of India to initiate this kind of series where we can discuss openly our thoughts, or share our thoughts with government, and we can find a solution together. We all know that medical device industry is growing tremendously in India, and if you look at the recent development and trends, it shows a great potential for future. Indian medical device industry is growing in double digits, and I hope continue to grow in coming years in a similar fashion. Government of India has already recognized certain opportunities out of these out of medical device sector, and they're already working on strengthening the regulatory framework in India. We have at the beginning of this session we got some insights from Dr. Bhandari and Dr. Renwa about the steps taken by the government. I would like to bring in panel's focus on some challenges which currently faced by the Indian medical device industry. One of the key challenges in medical device industry is to produce quality, effective, and a risk-free medical device. Considering growing demand of medical devices not only in India but globally, there are many manufacturers in India coming up with a lot of a big pool of products, and they're doing it very aggressively. Therefore, there is a requirement to bring in compliance in this area, and that should be a focus area for both regulators and manufacturers. It really becomes necessary to have a robust procedure for conformity assessment and market approvals in order to keep good quality and safe devices at affordable cost. The government is working towards improvement of regulations for medical devices in India. And in order to achieve this, they've already issued 2 notifications last year. One is for the redefinition of medical devices, and also by doing an amendment to medical device rules of 2017, which combinedly implemented and notified more medical devices. Almost all medical devices are now covered under the category of medical device. Earlier, there were a lot of exemptions. This is really a very good step to move forward, and we expect such steps in future as well. Government of India is also inspiring entrepreneurship through Atmanirbhar Bharat, which further encourages new startups. And India has a great pool of talents with a lot of innovative ideas that may further develop into new innovative devices, health applications, or many other products. To flourish all these startups, Government of India can provide incentivized programs or some incentives to these startups to further boost the growth of medical device sector. Although Niti Aayog has introduced a draft medical device bill in 2019 with a goal to improve quality, enhance transparency, make it easier for the sector to do business, formalize the regulatory framework, and also a framework for compensation. This bill may be a milestone for medical device sector to make India Atmanirbhar by reducing import dependency of medical devices. Also, this bill can be foreseen as a separate division under CDSU, to create a separate division under CDSU, which may be called as Medical Device Administration. That's a very important step taken by Government of India, which is, this is a need of the hour, I would say. However, the industry is concerned with the new bill mainly because of the predictability, because industry has already invested in a lot in compliance, and if something comes out differently in this new bill, that may really impact the manufacturers. There is another concern is with the requirement of regulators. For example, let's say if BIS develops a vertical indigenous standard, instead of aligning with international standards, there is a need to align a standard with already available global standards, which is, we can consider, the domestic need when we do alignment with global standards. But that will bring in more acceptability of Indian standards globally. And also it will be helpful for manufacturers to have a common minimum procedure in place for. In recent times, we have seen significant changes in global regulations, like medical device, like European medical device regulation, which has come up with a significant changed new regulations for medical devices, and now it's in implementation phase. This gives us an indication that the regulation need to be revisited based on experience gained over the years, based on changing industry scenarios, and these are the facts which we need to consider while we revisit regulation and bring in more changes, which is much favorable for all industry, government, and also the end user. Indian policies also need to be adopted, need to adopt relevant sections from the global regulations in order to align domestic regulations and bring in acceptability of Indian standards globally. As an example, I would like to bring in, for harmonization, IS 23485 is a standard is offered in India, which is understandably formulated by combining both ISO 13485 and ISO 161421. So these are certain steps already taken at certain level. It should be more probable. It should be more visible. Government of India should think in such a way that we should align our process in such a way that, especially if you talk about manufacturers, they should have they are exporting their products out of India in different countries, following different regulations, and maintaining all kind of different regulations is sometimes very complex. So if we have an aligned procedure with the global standards, that would definitely be a boon for manufacturers. It's also very important to have a risk-free and patient safety-centric policies. The policy should always not be focused on regulations-wise or on for manufacturers, but also we should be able to focus our policies for patients who are the end users and who get benefited most because of these products. An effective accreditation process can help Indian accreditation body getting global recognition and acceptance. For example, QCI and AIMED's initiative was already created an Indian certification of medical devices, that is ICMED, which has created an ecosystem for certification bodies, auditors and consultants, and the acceptability is even getting increased out of India as well. In addition, there is also an issue of price control of conformity assessment. For example, I would like to bring in from CDSU, which has fixed the cost of conformity assessment of notified bodies, which is one of the key challenges faced by the TIC industry, where they invest a lot to maintain, to follow the compliance, to train the auditors. There's a lot of cost involved into that. And if
to work under a very price controlled manner, that is something which is a big challenge for all TIC industries. So avoiding price control over conformity assessment will definitely ensure competition in market, innovation, and availability of resources and services. We have many manufacturers. I mean, India is now growing very fast, and we can see in coming days, we can see a lot of manufacturers coming up, and there'll be thousands of products in market. To ensure conformity of these products, to ensure safety and risk on these products, we need to ensure that there enough accessibility of notified bodies who can assess them and bring in a right product in market. Also, it will encourage notified bodies to get accredited for domestic accreditations. Most of the notified bodies are now accredited with either EU MDR or other regulations, which and they are not very keen on Indian regulation due to this price control. So by avoiding price control, that is definitely going to help the TIC industry, the manufacturers, and ultimately the process of conformity assessment of medical devices. Manufacturers will also have a choice of certification bodies that can further lead to best practices in industry, and that's what the entire concept of Udyog Manthan is. We want to bring in the best practices in any area, and this is one of the key issues we need to address. In last few years, medical device sector have seen significant reforms by government, which includes notification of medical devices rules, notifying extensive medical device categories, and in addition to that, further reforms required by Government of India to implement transparency, refinement of conformity assessment processes. So government is already taking many initiatives, and that we have already heard in the beginning of the session. During the COVID-19 pandemic, manufacturers, regulators, and certification bodies have realized the importance of robust, structured, regulatory and conformity assessment framework to allow fast approval of necessary devices. I would like to say that Indian regulators did a commendable job during pandemic by revisiting policies to make way for faster approvals of essential devices. And that was an initiative not only. Yeah. So that's all from my end. I would like to thank you very much for providing this opportunity to speak on the forum. Thank you.
Professor Bijan, you are on mute.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shailendra. Very appropriate recommendations have come out from you, and I'm sure the Manthan will highlight some of your recommendations.
Thank you.
And now I come to Shri Shirish Belapure, who is currently the Senior Technical Advisor of the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. This association is a very well-known and a renowned association of leading pharmaceutical companies of the country. And he is also currently president of Parental Drug Association of India chapter and active member of other professional bodies like ISP, IPA, Quality Forum, as well as IPA. So we would look forward from Dr. Shirish in giving his perceptions in terms of how academic institutions can collaborate with the government and the industry. So Shirish, now the mic is yours.
Mr. Shirish, you are on mute.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, organizers, QCI, Government of India, and other bodies for giving IP an opportunity to come here and present the views what has been done on the industry academic sharing. Let me share my. Okay. Can you see this? You are able to see the screen?
No, sir.
No?
No, it is not visible.
Okay.
You go ahead. You just now it's coming.
Yeah, so I need to show you. Give me 2 minutes. Yeah, okay. I think I will talk about the industry academia collaboration for the strengthening life science ecosystem. I think first thing is this whole ecosystem is based on three important things. The linkage between AIR, academic institution and scientific laboratories like NIPERs, AIMs, IITs, National Science Laboratories and institutions of high repute who have appetite for innovation. Second linkage is important is the industry where like pharmaceutical companies like large, medium, small, medical technology devices companies as well as the biotechnology companies, they represent the I. And third R is regulators and policymakers. They are also very important. CDSCO, State Drug Control, DST, DOP, NPPA, IP Office, etc. All these are important to decide strong linkage. And if this strong linkage is there, it will give the strength and stability to the life sciences ecosystem. Let us talk about the countries with the strong industry academia collaboration and where are we. I think we are not too bad. We are at number 26. This is based on the data in 2017 and 2018 by World Economic Forum. And this is compiled by the McKinsey and Company. And we were 26 at that time. It is not specifically for the pharma industry or the bioscience industry, but across what is the perception about the industry academia collaboration. So if you see, we are ahead of even France from that point of view. It is not so bad. But we need to aim to US or Switzerland where it is very high. Their score is 5.8, 5.7. And we need to go there to create that kind of thing. We do not have the data related to what is happening on the pharma front. That data needs to be collected to create that kind of structure also. If you look at another Hirsch index, which is called as a metric to measure the productivity and citation impact of the publication for a particular scholar, it includes three fields of research: biochemistry, genetics and molecular biology, pharmacology and toxicology, immunology and microbiology. And based on this, rankings are given. So if you look at the Hirsch index, India scores around 742 compared to the US, where impact is about 2,668. And we are quite low there, and we need to create high quality academic research to get to the next level of the Hirsch index. Also, the number of institutions in top 200 who are collaborating with the companies, I think only 2 Indian institutes are coming in top 200 based global research reputation. I'm not aware which are these 2, I need to find out, but these are the 2 companies which have come out so far. So I think this is the area where we can do better and we have good scope to go ahead. What does it mean by what is the learning from the global best practices? I think first is the high quality academic talent and infrastructure is required for development of anchor institute to pursue long-term research projects on themes of strategic importance with support of special resources and funding. As such, full potential of local talent is not realized because of inadequate exposure to the industry. Also, there is a need for effective policies to attract high caliber global talent in India. We need to have few centers of excellences with best-in-class infrastructure for clinical testing, studies, as well as the clinical trials, etc. It will boost the innovation in our field. We also need to do promotion of industry-oriented research through industry support in development of curriculum, setup of technology transfer offices in universities with expertise in IP management, marketing and industrial outreach. Currently, I think there is a minimum input of industry currently in the design of industrial curriculum. There is a need of industry representatives in different management bodies of the academic institution and vice versa. There are few research and incubation centers are less currently in campus of academic institution, though now there is a lot of promotion in this area. Technical transfer and marketing expertise in academic institution needs to be improved. and there is a less familiarity of academicians with current regulations and hindering easy adoption of research and technology transfer. There is also need for the strong policy framework for collaboration. If that is there, it will improve the overall commercial landscape and collaboration also will go up. There is need to set up a strong governance frameworks to build accountability through strong program management and stage gate outcome-based funding. Instead of doing the funding, entire funding at one time, if it is based on the stage gate clearances, it will improve the overall productivity as well as the improvement in the getting the accountability of the institutions. And there is one more thing which, There is one more thing is development of conducive external ecosystem through setup of independent bodies which can catalyze collaboration. I think there are some examples there, A-Star in Singapore or CTI in the Switzerland. There are some examples, though not in the biosciences, there are some collaborations which have happened in India and which have really helped. First example is Boeing University Relations Program with IIT Kanpur. That was in 2008. And it gave a great advantage to the industry because the new ideas and processes for the global aerospace industries came from this collaboration. Also, it gave the academia to get the hands-on real-time experience from the best in business. Second is the Bosch and National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, collaboration with the setup of Bosch Power Tools Laboratory in 2007. It helped the industry because market need for the power tools and guidance of the faculty to develop such custom tools came through that collaboration. And academia also got an opportunity to interact with the industry experts on the regular basis. So their knowledge also went up. Third is the industry, ICICI and World Bank, along with the IIT Delhi to set up a technology business incubation program in 2000. It gave the development and commercialization of several technological innovations. That was the advantage to the industry. And also it gave academia successful spin-outs of the entrepreneurial ventures of the technology business incubation, TBIU, and commercialization of IP was also developed through this. I think what IPA did recently, and I would like to take you because there is a lot of activities are being done on this. We actually did a survey in the IPA companies who are almost 25 top Indian companies and looked at what are the gap identified during this period. And some of the gaps, what are the focus on the B Farm, what is the focus on M Farm, that came out very clearly. Also, some of the thing which needs to be added is the people management, new digital topics. I think Ranjit also talked about it. Improvement in the practical knowledge through the industrial visits and collaboration with the industry for the project work, and improvement in the knowledge of the regulated topics. These were the topics which are not taught and which needs to be taken into the curriculum. That was the coming out. So as a result, we made recommendation to the Pharmacy Council of India, who makes the syllabus for the B Farms and M Farm, and everybody has to adapt to that syllabus. So one of the things which came in the course design and structure is the overall design of the semester and workload, because we found that the workload in certain areas were very high in certain semester and workload was less in certain semesters. So this needs to be standardized. Evaluation model, I think lot of things need to be given to the practicals, more approach to the practical and real work than just theory. Thesis and dissertation needs to be industry oriented. It will be enhancing industry readiness for the B Farm as well as M Farm candidates. Course content, we added new topics to be included to drive industry readiness. We talked about like the data analytics, AR, VR, whatever new things are coming into digitalization. And some of the topics which are not relevant and can be removed should be removed. That was the recommendation, one of the recommendations. We need to create enabling infrastructure capabilities, physical infrastructure, labs, teaching staff and qualification, and structured exposure to the industry. For example, guest lecture, visits, and other things. I'll come back to you in the next slide. So what came out that we need to train the faculty in the industry. So we are now actually trying to create a program along with the PCI to train at least 100 teachers who are in the age group up to 45 to 50 maximum, to get them trained in the industry, good industry where the GMPs, new technologies are being adopted, and get them to know these things so they can pass it on this training to the students when they go to the back to the institutions. Students training in industry is currently part of curriculum, but still it is not taken very seriously. So we need to give certain percentages, some marks to the training when they come to the industry. It will bring the accountability to the student also and to the industry also. We need to create the guest lecture.
You have to conclude now.
Yeah, sure. Industrial visit by faculty and outsourcing of research to the institutes. I am finishing now. Just 2 minutes. I think this is my last slide. So need for high quality, we need to create all dots together. Need for high quality talent and infrastructure. Need for industry orientation in academia. Need for building trust by aligning differing objectives. Objectives are different: product driven versus publication driven, time driven versus open ended, creation of wealth versus creation of human resources. So these are the different objectives. So we need to bring it together. Fourth is the need for enablers for the collaboration. Need for the common platform to consolidate knowledge, match institution with the industry projects and showcase innovations. And last is need for stronger policy framework for collaboration, which will require need for IP policy framework for reward sharing, few policies for the incentivize industry investment in academic research. Thank you. Thank you very
Excellent.
much. Thank you.
You have shared with us. I must congratulate you for your excellent presentation. And what I would only recommend is, please convince your members of IPA to adopt one university at least in the next 6 months and let them get collaborated. And that would be a good beginning in terms of what the government wants to do. And I'm sure the government will come forward, including the Ministry of Education, to ensure that these universities link with your members in a very active mode. I would like to now call upon Dr. Rajiv Raghuvanshi, who is now currently the Senior Vice President of R&D of Dr. Reddy's Laboratory. He has over 29 years of experience in the industry. I must congratulate QCI and DPIIT for actually culling out such eminent people in the panel who have such vast experience. I'm sure Dr. Rajiv will discuss at length in terms of improvement in the regulatory system, which will incentivize the industry and would also bring in much of needed reforms which is required in the pharmaceutical sector to make healthcare most affordable and accessible for the citizens. So Dr. Rajiv Raghuvanshi ji.
Thank you, Professor Mishra. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. So good evening to everybody, and thanks organizers for giving me this opportunity to share some of my points which is based on our experience as customers in this country. So to start with, all of us know that the country has shown huge success and growth post-independence in pharmaceutical domain, to the extent that today we are recognized as pharmacy of the world. But the recent growth has actually happened mainly in the area of generic pharma industry. And we are still lagging far behind in pharmaceutical innovation, be it drug discovery or pharmaceutical innovation in the form of 505(b)(2) or likes. We should also not forget that the credit of success also goes to our regulatory system, which has been updating itself continuously to support the fast-growing industry. Since the pace of change is high and the context changes very fast, there is always a need to look into the voice of customer and do the necessary changes, updation, tweaking, or whatever we can say. In the present context, there is certainly a need to relook at our regulatory systems and procedures to help improve quality and productivity of pharmaceutical and medical device industry. In the interest of time, I'll take few examples which might bring forward the areas which may be required to be looked into, where we see some gap and scope of improvement. The first one is the multiple layer of regulatory system in our country, where we know that we have a central CDSCO organization, then there is a state drug regulatory system, and different states are having different systems. And many times as a customer, we have seen that there is some misalignment between the central organization and the state organization. Things get aggravated when we see that different states have different interpretation of the same law or same recommendations. So there is a misalignment among the states. We see there is a misalignment sometimes between the center and the state. And this actually creates huge problem for industry as a customer. And we lose a lot of time in convincing regulators that we need to move on and take some decision rather than keeping things pending. So there is certainly a scope of looking into this system of multi-layer and see if this can be aligned some way, or look at a question that is there a need for two-tier system. So that is one area which I would like to bring forward. Second is the multiple licensing system required for doing business in this country in pharma domain. It's a huge activity, and I would take just one part of this, say special export permission, that domain where specifically if you see APIs, what happens that if we have a customer from out of India, we have to take special export permission from regulators. And these export permissions are client specific, quantity specific, and country specific. So what happens, on the other hand, we also know that for APIs, our batch sizes are fixed. So if I have to supply a small quantity to a customer, I have to make, as per my batch size, a bigger quantity of the API. And what happens that I give, say, a part of it, the remaining part, there is no regulation what do I do. Expectation is we have to destroy it. If we have to give it to some other customer, it's a huge problem, and we have to approach the regulators and ask for a permission. Sometimes we get, sometimes we don't get. Similarly, if you see, if suppose it's a business, because of whatever reason, if the order is cancelled and I have already made the API, the expectation is that we have to destroy that API. I mean, sometimes it feels that there may be a scope of relooking into these kind of systems and procedures and regulations, and do changes to support the industry in this area. So this licensing system is another area where there is a scope of relooking and improvement. Other third area where there is a scope of relooking and doing some rationalization is the way our central CDSCO organization conducts the subject expert committee meetings. We call it SEC meetings. Whenever we apply for a new drug, either clinical trial or a registration proposal, or maybe M&M, so there we conduct this expert committee meetings, and there is certainly scope of relooking into the logistics of SEC meetings in terms of the visibility of scheduling needs some improvement. The time allocated to industry for discussion needs certainly an relook. One of the sensitive areas is whosoever is presenting into SEC meeting, CDSCO, after SEC has been done, publishes the minutes on its portal, and the whole industry knows that what product and what concept was discussed by which industry. And this actually gives lots of leads to the competitors and they can actually do development taking lead from other companies who are present at SEC. So this is a sensitive area. There is a possibility of re-looking into this also. One very interesting example I'll give, some time back, the CDSCO released a recommendation that all the API manufacturers should register their APIs with CDSCO. And howsoever old the API is. And there were some manufacturers who were, for example, for paracetamol and ibuprofen, there are manufacturers who are making these APIs in this country for the last 50 years and doing business comfortably. They felt that there is no need for any registration because it was not impacting the continuity of business. So they did not register. Now, if I have to make an innovative product where I'm using an old drug, say paracetamol, and I'm buying the paracetamol from a manufacturer who has not registered himself with CDSCO, if I apply for a T license, my T license is not approved till that manufacturer comes and registers the API with CDSCO. So there is a conflict, and between the manufacturer is not ready to register because it is not required by him, and CDSCO will not approve my T license unless until the industry comes and registers the API. And in between, I as an innovator for a new concept is suffering because I'm not getting the permission to start the development, and I lose huge amount of time. So if you ask me, there would be innovative way of dealing this situation. I would probably exempt some old APIs from getting themselves registered so that this problem is solved forever. Or if I have to, because of whatever reason, if I have to get that registered with CDSCO, I would do something which impacts the continuity of business of the API manufacturer so that the next day he comes and registers himself. Simply releasing a recommendation or a notification without making it compulsory through process and systems, the manufacturer may not come and register. So these are some practical problems we have been facing. So in the interest of time, I will not extend the list, but this just gives a flavor that there is a scope of re-looking into different systems and the way we are working in our regulatory system. And this had been raised by a lot of participants in this Manthan, as well as earlier also, but it has been raised at different industry bodies. So I'm also sure that these kind of issues are being faced by industries in the IUS and medical device and food industry. So there is significant scope of bringing innovation in the regulatory system. As I said, I gave just one example. Other could be, there are some licenses which we apply where there is no technical review. So why do I wait for approval? I mean, there can be a system where it can be time bound. Within 30 days of application, it is automatically approved if there is no technical review required. There are regulatory agencies in the world where there is a system of notification. If technical review is not required of my application, I just notify and move ahead. And the ownership lies with the sponsor. So there are a lot of innovative ways of dealing with regulatory system today. It's not only innovation in the development of product, but regulatory systems can also be innovatively designed. So looking at the current situation and future potential this industry brings, there is a need for enabling a regulatory landscape with a streamlined and simplified regulatory processes, robust guidelines, high predictability, increased capacity in the regulatory organizations, and a strong governance. Last but not the least, strong governance is something which we certainly have to relook at. This may be facilitated by one comprehensive regulator for the whole of the healthcare sector. And this will bring quick alignment among different stakeholders of the regulatory system, easy streamlining of the systems and procedures which are designed by these agencies, and this will ultimately bring a huge saving of resources and time on part of industry, which is the customer of these regulatory agencies, and certainly will bring a lot of efficiency in the system and improve the productivity and quality of the products which this industry is making today. With this, I would like to stop.
Thank you.
End. And thanks again, Professor Mishra and the organizer for giving this opportunity. And
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rajiv, you have been very forthright. You have brought in the need, and as you must be aware, government is already going through this exercise. So let us all put our minds together and suggest to the government, because regulations are always dynamic in nature. It has to be constantly updated with the developments which are taking place globally. Having said that, I would now request Dr. Rajiv Desai to come in, who heads the corporate quality management at Lupin, and he also brings in 30 plus years of experience from the pharmaceutical industry. And he did also mention that he would touch upon the relationship between the academia and the industry and the regulator. So Dr. Rajiv Desai would now take us through his vision in terms of how academic institutions can play a role in the country to support the pharmaceutical industry. Dr. Rajiv Desai.
Thank you so much, Professor Misra. It's really an honor to be part of this elite group and listen to the stalwarts of the industry. And we being in the industry right now, I think we feel the pinch, as what Mr. Raghuvanshi also, Dr. Raghuvanshi also said, that we feel the need of a lot of collaboration within the industry. And a lot has been said about the academics, industry, and the government collaboration. But right now, even though we need that, we are doing it on a piecemeal basis. So a particular site of ours would engage with the local institute or try to engage with some of the university. But it's happening because we need it, and there's interest shown by the industry, by the academics also. But I would feel that if that becomes like a policy, that becomes like a norm or a rule by the government, I think it becomes a very structured approach. And this structured approach is right now missing. So we find that these kind of collaborations are required. We know the government is making a lot of efforts to make it possible. As what Mr. Belapuri also said, that we being part of the IPA forum, we are trying to bring in these kind of initiatives in a big way and try to let the industry know, let the academics know, let the government know that we are there to support. And why not? Because we need people who are trained, who are employable. Now, what happens is, like in many of the cases, the institutes, the colleges would approach us and say that, would you like to collaborate with us and would you like to share? So we become part of their journey of syllabus setting or on the board of studies. But that's happening on a very ad hoc manner. I mean, some of the institutes and universities would be quite approachable and they would like to engage with us. But that is happening because they show the interest and they want to be seen as a university or the institute which churns out students who are employable. And that is a need for us. In the industry, we need students who are employable. We as industry also have a very big infrastructure for training academics. Many of the companies in India have a separate department for training. So no matter what kind of educational background the student comes in, no matter what experience he or she has, we have to make sure that they are trained to what we require. But when we look at the freshers, specifically the students who come out of the industry, of the colleges and institutes, we have to make them go through a lot of training programs, which the academics is missing. And that's a collaboration that we would like to bring in. And as what Mr. Belapuri said, the IPA is trying to make this possible in a big way. Secondly, on the regulatory agencies, Dr. Raghuvanshi also talked about it, that we need to have a much better regulatory framework and footprint of our own local regulatory agency, which can be showcased around the world. We have heard about mutual recognition between other
Dr. Rajiv, we can't hear you.
can we go to the next speaker in that case?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, while we wait for Dr. Rajiv to come back, can I call upon Mr. A. Ganesh Kumar, who is the Head of Quality Regulatory Affairs with Siemens Healthcare Private Limited, to take us through in terms of how he feels being the head of the Quality Regulatory Affairs of an international brand, where India can play a role, and how we should work in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat and making India go global in terms of medical devices. So, Mr. Ganesh Kumar, can I request you to kindly come now out of turn, because we can't hear Dr. Rajiv Desai anymore. So, Dr. Ganesh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Misra, and thank you all dignitaries for providing me this opportunity. Thank you very much for the Government of India for organizing this webinar session. It is really very helpful for us. So maybe if you can help me for projecting the slides. I had just prepared 2-3 slides.
Yeah, please.
Or okay, otherwise.
Shirath, will you be able to? It's gone. It's happening. Okay, please go ahead.
If you are able to see my screen, then
no, not yet. Not yet. Please load it. Yeah, now we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Just to begin with, so a few thoughts. The reflection what we have gone through in terms of a medical device sector. So if we talk about the recent emergence of the quality and regulations in the medical device sector, we really consider that as a big strength. So when we talk on, we were actually a kind of from a no regulation to well-developed and established regulations and processes for medical devices. And this really has improved the competitive advantage of medical devices which are made in India. And from the eye of rest of the world, when we talk about, say, a few years before, only few medical devices which were notified, and only those are regulated, and remaining were not regulated. And we were kind of like fully depending on the approvals from US FDA or from European Union. So now the access to quality and reliable medical devices in the Indian health sector has actually got widely improved. And the affordable medical devices, and which is also reachable by all sections of the society. And the one great thing we also need to look into that is the enhanced awareness of the quality among the healthcare providers as well as the patients with respect to the medical devices. And the policies by the Government of India in promoting Make in India of medical devices. So these are the few strengths. If we are looking back in the very few years back, what the changes the Government of India has made and how we are transforming and evolving on. So big thanks to the policy initiations by the Government of India. And there are few thoughts which I also want to share where we can also make it simple or easier so that the Make in India can be even more better promoted. So the one which we talk on, the regulatory process. This is exactly the similar point which actually also raised by our colleague from pharma industry, talking about that the current regulatory processes and there is a scope for simplification of the regulatory approval process. Just for an example, if we talk on the currently any medical device or an IVD device manufacturing setup in India, this really requires a lot of approvals from various departments and ministries. A rough estimate, it is a kind of like we may require 20 plus or even more than that. So this is a very simple list of the different approvals which we will require to set up a manufacturing site in India. So manufacturing licenses and the approvals from the state drug control authorities and the wholesale licenses. And there are a bunch of other approvals or a requirement which comes from the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Depending on the product category, we may need to have a few or maybe all of them approval from the required authorities or the departments. Then from Ministry of Information Technology, Electronics and Information Technology, with approval from BAS, and for wireless products, for telecom products, if we are having some accessories which are required for a medical device, and also for radiation emitting products, the approval from AERB, and registration with legal metrology and labeling requirements as per legal metrology. And nevertheless, from Department of Pharmaceuticals with respect to the NPPA, or though it is voluntary, but we have the obligation to comply with the Uniform Code of Pharmaceutical or Medical Device Marketing Practices, and also the vigilance program. And the recent one, which also got added, is from the Ministry of Heavy Industries with respect to certain electrical requirement, which medical device industry import them as a spare parts or an accessory. So it's a sample list, but if you look at it, there is a really, a scope for us if the process of regulatory approval, if it can be simplified, and more of if a single window regulatory approval process for medical device, if it can be made, it will really enhance the ease of manufacturing setup in India. So there is a scope for a definitely larger scope for us to work on that, to improve upon. And the second point, which also I would like to touch upon, this is from the medical device. If we are looking at, there are also a lot of innovations in the latest technology which is coming in the healthcare. And there is really a fast pace emerging in the digital health technologies. And if we look at that, India being as the world hub for information technology, we are also emerging as a leading country in developing new technologies in the space of digital health. So there are a few examples if we talk on. There are really some innovative products, right, from small startup companies, all from to well-established companies. They are coming up with the different kinds of products in the digital health technologies. So, for example, the world is looking at more and more on the mobile app and the products on the mobile. And there is a big data in the healthcare. So, with respect to the patient record analysis, predictive analysis, there are wearable medical devices, algorithm-based healthcare decisions, and software as medical devices, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And there is also going to be the blockchain and electronic health required. There are so many new the emerging and fast-paced technology which is coming on, and if in India, if we have the regulations and the products being regulated from India, that will definitely give us a competitive advantage, and we will be also able to show that as a leader in the digital health technologies. So that's another area which I wanted to just talk on. And the third thing, which is actually on the harmonization of the regulatory processes. This topic, though it has been talked on a different angles or a different aspects, but from a medical device point of view, what possible it could be, or how the other countries, they actually have participated and brought this harmonization. So if we, there is a wide scope, if we make more on the harmonization of the regulatory processes, with respect to the pre-market approvals and the standards, the harmonization on the standards and the quality system requirements, and if there are audits and the vigilance program. So there is one great opportunity for us if we can also be part of the International Medical Device Regulators Forum, which will help us getting more harmonized and the regulatory processes, not only on the regulations, but also on the various other aspects of with respect to the use of standards or even the audits or vigilance activities, all of that. So there are already a set of countries who are part of that, and if India can also join, there will be more of a recognition of India certified medical devices, and our regulatory processes can also be more harmonized. And the second is on the acceptance of the medical device single audit program. Currently, this is one topic which we are also going through multiple audits by different authorities. If it is manufacturing side, by the notified bodies from CDSCO and for ISO 13485, and then also maybe the notified bodies if we have to go through the CE certification and all of that. And there is a harmonized compliance point if we can also accept it with the medical device single audit program. So it could be like a harmonization in auditing, and we don't probably need will not required to go through multiple audits. And the harmonization of the standards, so which will actually ease the Indian manufacturers. The point much to be importance is that not only harmonization but also the acceptance of a single certification. So currently, if we have to comply with the ISO IEC standards, and there is also again we comply with the BA standards. If complying with the BA standards, if it can be accepted in the international arena, so then it will make the Indian manufacturers ease so that we can go through one single certification process. So this will enhance our harmonization of the regulatory processes, and it will also promote to set up manufacturing sites in India.
Please summarize.
Yeah. In simple, the regulatory process currently we have a very complex. We need to go through various other the departments and authorities. If it can be simplified and more, if it can be harmonized, it will be easier and helpful for the medical device industry to set up the manufacturing sites in India and also to make more on the Make in India. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ganeshji. You have again stressed the need to be more innovative, and single window is always a very encouraging kind of a step. And I'm sure, we will all look at in terms of how we can bring in good governance vis-a-vis, long drawn, cumbersome processes and get away from that. So we are again calling upon Dr. Rajiv Desai, whom we lost in terms of during his presentation due to technical glitches. Dr. Rajiv Desai, can you unmute and continue with your remaining presentation?
Thank you so much, Professor Mishra. Yeah, when I saw Ganesh speaking, then I said probably there's some issue with my connection. So that's fine. So anyway, we have to live with this kind of technology. But yes.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
So just to wind up the points that I was trying to make is that when we look at the regulatory agencies around the world, and India has a very strong history and also the compliance status that we see. So many of our hundreds and thousands of our facilities are being inspected and approved. So no wonder we supply medicines around the world. But the same thing should apply to our own regulatory agency. Our regulatory agencies' inspection should also get accepted by the overseas regulatory agencies. We talk about mutual recognition. There is a big talk about mutual recognitions amongst the overseas companies. But somehow that group does not figure in the Indian regulatory agency, which is something that we have to really work on. And if there is anything that can be done from the industry point of view, we are there to support. Coming back to the recent times when we faced the COVID pandemic and we had to change our style of working, I think the current times also showed us how to improvise our ways of working, the automation that we try to work on. And I think we have only fueled the need for higher kind of automation and also the kind of work that we are doing with the analytical instruments, the manufacturing instruments. The robotics, the high throughput instruments are becoming a norm now, and we are collaborating with these instrument suppliers to make it happen. At Lupin also, we have made a lot of headway in these kind of areas, and we heard about machine learning and artificial intelligence. That is the norm now. And the best part is that when we look at the youngsters who are joining us, they're absolutely on dot in terms of accepting these technologies and being part of this innovation journey. And the tech-savvy youngsters are really a boon for these kind of transitions that we've seen. So we have the right mindset, a little bit of collaborations between the three agencies, the industry, academics, and the government will definitely make sure that we become the best around the world. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you very much. In fact, you have concluded with a great note in terms of moving forward, and I'm sure Lupin will play a very positive role in making that happen. Now I come to Shri Harshmukh Rawalji, who is the Managing Director and founder of MyLab Discovery Solutions. He's the co-founder, and he also brings in a lot of deep, experience in the commercial area of laboratory good practices. So, as you know, healthcare needs support from all the players in the supply chain, whether it's pharmaceutical companies, whether it's devices, equally in terms of diagnostics firms. So we would look at your viewpoint on how we can make quality diagnostic organizations which can go global from India. So Harshmukh Bhai, we would like to hear from you now.
Thank you very much, Bijon sir, and let me thank the opportunity to be there in this discussion with all the great personalities. I will share my idea around diagnostic medical devices because that is where most of my strengths are, and we'll start with a little presentation. Now, as we speak about opportunities and challenges in healthcare, what best time would be rather than the COVID time where we have seen the biggest challenge shown in last century and how we made sure that we still solve this with the best possible solutions in terms of diagnostic, in terms of therapeutics, vaccines, how fast we quickly respond. So yes, India has shown immense strength in terms of know-how we have and the capabilities we can problems we have. To give you example with what MyLab has faced, before I start a few slides, let me tell you that we ourselves in the country, all the department, be it Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, CDSU offices, healthcare verticals at municipal, state and central level, and be it or Ministry of External Affairs, everybody has come together and made sure to help companies like us to have a faster not only approval but also the production and the reach across the society. So I'll see that yes, there is a support system which is there, but it has to be a default button rather than the panic support system, and that is where I will add a few of my comments. So first thing will be, of course, help local company to go global. We all have seen what kind of quality solutions we can produce, but I feel that there has to be a harmonization system should come in place. But by the time the technical supports for the companies to make sure that we can navigate internationally with all the approvals in place, I think the first step to begin with should be the launch of ICMED plus certifications, which will give enough confidence to the players in India to have confidence to go at international market, also to make sure that whatever we are serving at the best quality solutions to our country. Second will be to ensure the quality proof value chains. Now, it's when we are wanting to make a quality product, be it a pharma or be it an IVD device, we have to not only make sure that our devices or our pharma products are best, but even the raw material suppliers and let's say a secondary or tertiary raw material supplier are not only in place, but also they make the product at a quality standard. And that is where we will be able to sustain the quality over period. It's not only about, I always give the example to the team. It's not only making a quality product, it is making the quality product in quantities. And this will never happen without a proper quality proof value chains based maybe in SEZ units or maybe support for all those raw and secondary raw material suppliers in the country. Of course, third will be consulting support and guidance. I think Niti Aayog, QCI have wealth of information, and most of the new companies or maybe even the current companies also might not be having all the access to this kind of information, and this kind of support and guidance will help them to plan properly before they start investing on healthcare-based products, because all of these biology-based products are costly affairs, and right guidance in the beginning and throughout the process will help them to keep motivated enough and saving lots of resources before they are short of it. Fourth will be, of course, the global idea exchange. I think closer tie-ups with association across the globe. IVD industry or maybe any pharma or medical device industry is ever changing. There are a lot of technical advancement, technical suggestions and improvement. We would not be able to implement all these best solution quality practices if we are not aware about what is happening over the globe. And I think a committee which gives us an idea about what is happening, what are new enhancement happening, and what we should incorporate and what we should remove, I think it will help all the companies inside the country to make the right solution. Consistent standards would be one of the most important. I think we have policies made at central level, but I have personally have seen that most of the policies do not come maybe at a state or even the municipal level. So a consistent standard policy governed by all at all districts and states level should be very important. One such example is state following US FDA against a BIS or CDSCO standard. So there is still a confusion at most of the states of what we see, and I think a straight message to all states and central local bodies for a single procurement policy for all those medical or pharma products would be very important to keep local or Atmanirbhar Bharat based companies motivated. And automation, I think, is as just before Rajiv sir said, automation is the key for a quality manufacturing. Until unless you don't remove the manual errors in the process, you are prone to have a variation in the quality. So I think companies should be welcoming automation in their processes as much as possible, because it will not only save in terms of quality, but also you will be able to increase the throughput. We ourselves have brought automation in a similar plant, which has increased the capacity from 20,000 tests per day to almost 2 lakh tests per day without even a space increase. So that is the wealth of resource what automation can bring, and I think companies should be ready to adopt. Now, before I close, also I would like to add a personal remark. Any field is ever changing, and now with the way the globe is expanding in terms of technologies, if we don't adopt and learn new technologies faster, we will be out of the competition. And I think here the government should promote incentives in terms of research where they are more of towards a product based or product development based, and the association with such research based innovations, and the companies which are looking for it should happen as much as possible to make sure that we become self-sustainable. Continuous increase in quality standards would not be possible if we don't innovate. No product is made best on day one, and it has to improve over a period, and that won't happen without quality research. So with this, I think I'll conclude my points.
Thank you very much. Hasmukh bhai, very well concluded, and I would definitely like to tell you that product quality is highly linked with productivity, and that is how we have to move. And your suggestions on automation, on technology is highly recommendable, and I personally feel excellent recommendation given by you. Yes, Shirath, you want to come in?
Yes, Professor, before you summarize the deliberation, we also have with us Mr. Rajiv Nath. Mr. Rajiv Nath is Managing Director of Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices Limited and the founder and forum coordinator, Association of Indian Medical Device Industry. Sir, I would now like to invite you to speak on the quality and productivity in the pharma and medical industry. Over to you, sir.
Mr. Rajiv Nath, please come in.
Thank you, Professor Bijan Mishra and QCI for this opportunity. I would like to make a brief presentation. A lot has been spoken already, and very well, I must say, by my predecessors. So it'll be more of summing it up and emphasis on that. So today's focus is on this Manthan initiative is on quality, and quality comes from following standards and regulatory controls in the case of medical devices. This is our vision to make India to be the top 5, and currently we are nowhere near this vision. But COVID has proven that with the required kind of teamwork and the required kind of government support, in the last few months, manufacturing capacity and capabilities can be ramped up very rapidly. So if we continue to do what we've been doing in the last few months, there is no reason why this vision cannot be realized. This is what happens when you don't have regulations. Most industries avoid regulations. Medical device industry is one industry that has been crying for regulations. But asking for regulations of the right kind and the predictable kind, regulations that are implementable and reasonable. If you don't have regulations, then you have this kind of chaos which is slowing us down, and that's what's been happening with the medical device industry for the last 2-3 decades. But if we have regulations, then everything is organized, people know what they have to do. Various stakeholders, whether they are manufacturers, certification bodies, notified bodies, accreditation bodies, regulators, BIS, QCI, everybody knows what is expected from them and their role in the whole ecosystem. And they can fulfill each other's responsibility, and when the ball comes to them, they can play in the team and score the goal. Instead of everybody chasing the ball and creating confusion, and many people not knowing what each of these various organizations do. They don't have clarity what is the role of QCI, what is the role of BIS, what is the role of NABL, what is the role of NABCB, and the regulator's role. Here again, there is also confusion which needs to be clarified. Regulatory standards normally are the bare minimum requirement for ensuring patient safety. But to ensure competitiveness, one has to prove that he not only meets patient safety needs under Indian or international regulation, but he follows voluntarily defined quality standards. Those quality standards can be Indian standards of BIS, or they can be harmonized standards of the international bodies like ISO. And any manufacturer can go beyond a written standard and make his product even superior than those bare minimum standards. And that's where he goes for quality leadership and delight from the customer. So then people like Bijon Mishra are happy to buy the product and feel pleased that they're getting value for money. 2 years back, the Indian National Standard Strategy was implemented or announced, and the whole basic idea was to enhance competitiveness of the Indian goods. This whole exercise by DPITT is a step forward in the right direction to show implementation of this strategical intent, which was number one, to develop standards by various standard making bodies, to ensure conformity assessment by various technical regulators, and by giving them a chance to provide means of showing compliance, and additionally to make sure that by ease of doing business, manufacturers are able to show that they are protecting the needs of the Indian citizens. And most important is that we manufacturers need to have the mindset to produce higher quality, not cut corners to make cheaper products. Consumers need to buy quality products, and even public healthcare needs to buy quality products. So not only private sector, but public health sector has got this huge onus to go for R1 and Q1, highest rating and highest quality, not lowest price every time. So historically, of course, we've heard very rightly Dr. Ranjit talking about the challenges, and Mr. Yatin Shah talking about the lack of trust in medical devices and about the Make in India label. But let me tell you by my own experience, I find this lack of trust and lack of Make in India label only in the countries where there is open access to Indian products. In countries like USA or Europe, which have got strong regulations, they have normally been protected from access by shoddy Indian products. So there is no bias against Indian products over there because they've never had a bad experience. And when we go in over there, we normally find that there is a good acceptance of high quality products. So regulations do help. And all over the world, even including USA, there's a higher reliance to delegate the responsibility from regulators because of shortages of skilled manpower to go for third-party regulatory advantages, like was mentioned by Dr. Ganesh Kumar and Mr. For regarding the MD sub certification, for example. So lack of regulations is what has been confusing manufacturers. If my friend who is in Bombay wants to collaborate with me to make a 30-story building in Gurgaon, and he's got experience to make 100-story buildings in Bombay, he has got no issues to make a factory or a building of 30 stories in Gurgaon because he's already experienced. But bylaws in Haryana may not allow him. Now, do you think he will start making a 60-story building because I've asked him to invest in that? Or he will ask me to clarify and wait for the laws to be changed. If I tell him the chief minister is my friend and it is assured by the chief secretary that in 1 year's time or 2 years' time the law will be changed, start the construction and don't worry, we will get this passed. Do you think he will take the risk? Now, this is the kind of problem we've been facing in medical device industry, where for the last 10 years we've been hearing that we're going to be having a separate regulatory framework. And unless that clarity is there, we are in a halfway house. With the result that because of this lack of clarity, there's confusion, people don't come forward to invest, whether Indian or foreign manufacturers, and we've got 70 to 90% import dependency. So we do feel there's a need to make need for a voluntary certification to prove quality credibility by Indian manufacturers and a respect for Indian medical device industry. The Drug and Cosmetic Act has been a misfit. There have been a number of attempts in trying to amend it, but it may not work because every time you try to do it to accommodate of a joint family, in the joint family, the whims and fancies of the youngest couple, then naturally the older people are going to complain. So either you let us out from the house into a separate house so that we can have our own family to be growing by our own means, or you'll find that there's always going to be toe stepping and going to be issues. So right now we're in a halfway house where we've been given a separate kitchen, but not a separate house. So we've got a separate medical device rule book, but under the same law. And now we've got an area where we are having a phased in medical device regulations with some implants and electronics which have been announced for being notified from 1st January, which has now been given a 6 months more reprieve over here. So these are the normal issues which we are given to us over here, that if we bring regulations, will it stop regulations? Will it be creating an environment for investment or discourage it? Well, we think, like I mentioned earlier, if it is reasonable and implemented, it will encourage it. If it is tough and overreach, it's going to be, or confusing, it's going to be not encouraging it. And how should we address this patient safety concerns? So number one is, of course, by having a separate framework, whether it's by a separate regulatory authority or not is secondary, but definitely a separate law is required. And how do we implement that between the center, the state, and the conformity bodies? Because this is always a confusion, it's on the concurrent list or a state subject. So we need to have a clear delegation of the roles between the central government and the state governments, because this fight between center and state, the manufacturers are getting stuck. We also need to address the key strategic issues of proving compliance by having access to the right kind of laboratory infrastructure and given a proper transition period to move from Drug Act to the new regulations. We've been told you're getting the chance now to go for voluntary registration, and you've got 2 years or 3 years time to move from the Drug Act, the drug rules to the new medical device rules. But what has not come forward is clarity, like in case of most regulations worldwide, that given the last date of the regulations, can we get licensed prior to that? Now, we should be allowed to get licensed prior to that, not wait for the last date. You can't expect on 1st January or on 30th June, everybody overnight are going to be regulated. Everybody will be issued a new license number. And on 2nd January or 1st of July, the new license number is going to be available on everybody's package. The packaging material has to be depleted. Both the systems need to coexist. When we manufacturers talk about this, we are given a reprieve of giving 6 months more time or 1 year more time to implement this transition period. Now, that does not really work. We are not asking for more time. What we are asking is for smooth transition. So we need to ensure patient safety, but we need to make sure that we don't discourage this. Professor Bijon Mishra himself was part of this initiative, where on Consumers Day in March 2016, the ICMED or Indian Certification for Medical Devices was launched. This has come forward to bring forward quality management systems certification available to Indian manufacturers to show that they are not less than the best in the world. But what is next needed now, and for what we have been waiting for a long time from QCI, is the need for ICMED 1345 plus certification, like has just been mentioned by Mr. Hasmukh Shah. So people tend to confuse that why do you need ICMED certification when ISO is there? ISO is a QMS standard, but it is not complete by itself and does not give enough. Sorry? It does not give adequate capabilities to manufacturers to prove compliance to regulatory standards. Yeah. So this is what is required. And here you can see that the equivalence is there. Not only equivalence, the medical device rules are now a subset of the Schedule 5 is a subset of the ICMED certification. So it's a voluntary scheme.
You have to summarize now.
Yes, please. So it's subject to building capacity and it's required to incentivize that. So what we seek is that in procurement, instead of asking for US FDA certification, ICMED certification is sought. The regulators gave reduced regulatory oversight to manufacturers having ICMED certification. So more people come forward for this. This will reduce the burden of compliance for manufacturers and also for regulators. And this will already has shown that it has helped to build the ecosystem in the country, whereby you have now consultants, competent auditors, certification bodies, NABCP grading them and helping Indian manufacturers to prove that what we can make is good for the world. BIS allows only Indian manufacturers to make products as per Indian standards. ICMED additionally allows Indian manufacturers to prove quality as per global standards. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next part now, where we are waiting for Niti Aayog to come forward with this law, and this will take care of most of the issues regarding safety, effectiveness, and innovation. Work in process going forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rajiv. Thank you very much. In fact, you have summarized in terms of what are the requirements and how we should move and in what way we should move. So I would like to now again request Shirat to kindly tell us how we should close it now, or anything else to be done in terms of the rituals.
No, sir, I will take it from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Bijan Mishra, for steering the deliberation so well and summarizing the discussion. I would like to extend our gratitude to the Joint Secretaries, Dr. Mandeep Kumar Bhandari and Mr. Navdeep Renwa, for gracing this event with their presence and setting up the context for the session. I would like to thank our illustrious panelists for deliberating on the issues of quality and productivity in this industry. I request all the experts to spare some time and provide recommendations and suggestions in the template shared with you, as this would help in creating a compendium of quality-related sectoral recommendations which will be shared with the ministry. Furthermore, I would like to thank all the attendees for being such a fantastic audience. Here, I conclude the session. Goodbye and have a great evening.
Ma'am, could we have the copies of the presentation somehow?
Yes, they will be mailed to you.
So the email ID is with you, right? Yeah, you have it.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all my panel members, for sparing your time and coming and sharing your knowledge with us. I'm sure all the participants, viewers would have gained a lot out of this Manthan, Udyog Manthan to continue. Thank you, Alok and team, QCI and team, for bringing it together. Thanks a lot to Government of India, DPIIT for taking this initiative. And I'm sure a lot of good recommendations have emerged today, which will be collated and submitted before the government to go on a fast track in terms of policy interventions. I would not like to repeat what all my panel members have said, and I'm sure Alok and his team will do the needful. Thank you, Alok. Thank you, all the panel members.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Benson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all the committee. Thank you very much. Thank you.